Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. We're excited to spend the next 45 minutes walking through how Hawkeye Community College unified credit and non-credit program pathways and what that means for creating a more seamless, student-focused experience. Here's what you can expect. Mary Pat Moore and Kelly O'Brien will walk through the strategy and challenges, how the team aligned, and real examples of the new program pages, including the impact on engagement and conversions. We'll wrap up with a live Q&A, so feel free to drop your questions into the Q&A section. And if you want to revisit anything or share it with your team, everyone who registered will receive a copy of the recording in the upcoming days along with the slides. And with that, let's get started.
Welcome to Bridging User Journey, Credit and Non-Credit Program Pathways, presented by Hawkeye Community College and StayMates.
Hi, I'm Mary Pat, and I have been the Executive Director of Public Relations and Marketing at Hawkeye since 2020, and I will celebrate my 25th year with the college this summer.
And I'm Kelly, a strategist and account manager with StayMates since 2019. Before that, I spent many years working in higher ed communications.
So a little bit about Hawkeye Community College. We're located in Waterloo, Iowa. We have a student population of about 5,000 credit students and 9,000 non-credit students. We are known for high quality, hands-on educational programs. Our instructors are very supportive, and we're known for our learning environment. Our campus is still small enough where faculty know our students by name.
StayMates is also based in Iowa in Cedar Rapids. Our family-owned company recently celebrated its centennial, and for 70 of those 100 years, we've been at the forefront of higher ed marketing. We focus on the user's experience and data-driven results. We know there is no cookie-cutter approach, so we pride ourselves on being built for exceptions. And Mary Pat, we were incredibly proud of your team and what we accomplished together when you won the NCMPR District 5 Gold Medallion for the website.
Needless to say, we are so excited and so very proud.
And if you want to check it out from home, that site is hawkeyecollege.edu, and it went live about a year ago. So our presentation is about more than a website. This is a story about changing how we tell our story about our programs at Hawkeye and our journey through tackling technical and political challenges to get to a more student-focused experience. So watch for details on how we blended credit and non-credit, redesigned program pages, and got everyone on board. So Mary Pat, do you want to talk about how, where Hawkeye was at when we started this project?
You know, Hawkeye, we needed a new website, not just in design, but in infrastructure or CMS. Our old website was slow, and we were very limited in our modules and how we displayed our content, which made our web pages very copy heavy and not very engaging. It wasn't what we wanted for our students. We had just adopted guided pathways, which provide clear academic pathways for our students and allow students to start or stop in their journey to reach their educational and career goals. A good example of this is nursing, which has a very defined career path: CNA, LPN, RN, BSN, and each career has a career educational requirement: a certificate, a diploma, associate degree, a bachelor's. So for a community college like Hawkeye, guided pathways meant bridging our credit and non-credit programs into one central area of the website. A huge change for academia, so we needed to think about outside of the box. And Kelly, we needed a new website to be a marketing tool. You know, after COVID, we struggled with enrollment like so many other institutions of higher education, and we needed the website to work for us. So when we sat down, we defined our project goals like you do with any project. And we said, first off, we wanted this to improve our user experience and increase engagement. The site needed to be intuitive for our users. Second, we needed to move the college, because the college was moving into guided pathways, we needed to connect careers and programs to show a prospective student all of their options. And we wanted the website to work for us and support key conversions of completing a request for information form, scheduling a campus visit or an appointment. And we desperately needed to update our technology in CMS. But above all, Kelly, more than anything, the website needed to be a recruiting tool. And from the very beginning, this is something I got leadership to agree on the direction and the vision for the website. We wanted it to be a student recruitment tool, attract students to the college and retain them. And this became really very helpful as we moved through the project. When sometimes we got to a crossing point where we weren't really sure what to do, we'd always go back and ask ourselves, if this is a recruiting tool, what do we need to do? And it really made things much easier for us.
Yes, having everyone aligned, that makes a huge difference.
Yes,
And
it
Mary
does.
Pat, during our discovery process, you told us about this phenomenon of students you didn't know just applying to Hawkeye. They'd never visited, they hadn't filled out an RFI. So you called them stealth applicants. How did this affect the goal setting for the new website?
Well, we saw that stealth applications were increasing. The application was becoming an RFI, a way to get information without visiting campus or with an admissions rep. And we also knew that students were looking or shopping at colleges who had their program or major of interest. So ultimately, we knew that our program pages were going to be of utmost importance for us. But our infrastructure was very limiting. So what you're looking at here is an old website. It's a page that had a lot of good information, what students will learn, program modalities, length of program. We had some testimonials, area employers, and then each page also had a very detailed sequence of study with courses listed semester by semesters that they would take. But it was kind of boring and long.
But chock full of information.
Yes, good information.
Yeah, and so I know we're talking to community college folks right now with this, and that any community college that's offering credit and for credit, you kind of have two sides of the house, as Mary Pat likes to describe it. So I don't need to explain this to you, but this is, thinking about the difference between the for credit and non-credit options. There are definitely some bullet points that apply to each that are different in each column.
Right. Hawkeye is really not very different than a lot of schools that I've talked to. Our credit and non-credit, for Hawkeye, sometimes they offered very similar programs. They were designed to meet different student needs. Our non-credit was actually growing. It was the short-term types of programming. Folks could get in and out and get a credential very quickly. And they didn't have to put up with all the accreditation guidelines from that end of it. So there was some different things between the two of them. For us, not only do we have some of those things in front of us about the different, technicalities of credit and non-credit, but each program or credit and non-credit were managed by different leadership. They reported to different VPs. They had different enterprise systems. So in essence, we were kind of competing with one another. And that because of that, they also ended up in different parts of the website.
Different parts of the website. So I want to stick a pin in that. Okay, so sounded like future students needed to know in advance before they visited your website, am I looking for a for credit option or am I looking for a non-credit option before they even begin their program search?
Yes, that's true. A prospective student really needed to know what they were looking for, as well as the name of the program, which sometimes in higher ed, things don't always seem to be called what they are. So it was very difficult for students. And with guided pathways, we really needed to improve how we presented our programs and help students understand where they could come in to a program and help them to complete and understand where they're going with their academic journey. It was really about connecting the dots, if you will.
So what did those two differences between those two sides of the house, what did that do to your marketing efforts?
Well, it was quite interesting, to be honest with you. Marketing was asked to promote both credit and non-credit programs at the same time almost, or within the same career path. Sometimes we were asked to do it within weeks of each other. They were designed, right, to meet different student needs. But the reality is we were targeting the same group of people interested in a career field, with the only difference maybe being the type of credential they earned. So who's to say or who's to know what the right program is for welding for an individual? Is it the credit program or is it a non-credit certificate? Now remember that these are managed by different divisions. So we were, again, we were kind of basically competing against ourselves. And with a limited advertising budget, we needed to figure out a better way to promote our programs and our career pathways. Kelly, we just needed a new strategy.
And that's where StayMates came in to help on this, right?
That is. I think we asked you to begin with an audience workshop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when StayMates made our first visit to Hawkeye, we conducted an audience workshop with staff and faculty stakeholders. We used these personas, these awesome personas that Hawkeye had already created to aid their marketing strategy and voice and tone. If you don't know Waterloo, Iowa, Waterloo has a large manufacturing presence. It has a growing refugee community, and it's adjacent to Cedar Falls, which has the University of Northern Iowa. So there's a lot of opportunity in the area, and the personas reflect this diversity of experience, challenges, and life goals. So we wanted participants to get an idea of what the search experience is like, to see how future students find the Hawkeye website and the program pages. We wanted them to put themselves into the shoes of their future students. So we used Giselle here, who is interested in going into nursing and following in the footsteps of her other family members. So one of our eye-opening moments was when we did a live Google search, asking faculty and staff, what would Giselle type into Google if she is looking for a nursing program near where she lives? What Google served up was not what they expected.
Is that we saw that what we thought was the best result for students was not what was coming up in Google. Many times what was coming up was a page that was a sequence of study, right, with just a class listing, but nothing about the why Hawkeye is a great page. I mean, we had so much more to offer than just a list of courses. So, really what this told us is that we needed to embrace Google as our home page.
Our mantra, yes. And we also did usability study, usability testing, usability studies. So our strategists met with high school students at the Waterloo Career Center, and we learned that they didn't quite understand our terminology, right? They don't know the difference between credit and uncredit. Everybody wants credit for their work, right? They also told us that they want to know about program success and career options. They maybe don't say it in that way, but they want to know that they can get to a better career after attending college at Hawkeye or anywhere. And they did like the course listings that were very, very long on that page, but they didn't really need to get to that information as soon as what they were getting it. So we connected insights from our testing to the direction that we thought we needed to take with the new Hawkeye site.
It sounds pretty easy, but nothing's ever very easy when you talk about internal and change. Our employees who are very good at what they do focused on managing the business process and not necessarily what students needed. So we needed folks to understand the needs of a student. And we knew it was going to be a challenge to get folks on the same page. So we basically started mapping out some of our possible options with StayMates.
So our strategist made this first attempt at incorporating non-credit and for-credit together. Hawkeye had career cluster sections in their program filter, but because they were isolated in that program filter, that didn't really help in promoting those programs. So our idea was a new page that had a list of, for example, all health sciences related programs or areas of study. So from there, you would then select an area of study that you were interested in this case, nursing. And then that nursing page would show you all of your options, whether for credit or non-credit. So this is what that looked like from the sitemap. We were proposing eliminating pages that just showcased apprenticeship separate from other programs, short-term trainings, and then the for credit nursing page. So these all had been segregated, and we were proposing removing those segregations and then pulling them all together to make it look like this. We would pull them all together under nursing in the sitemap.
You know, the career cluster page with all the health related programs options on one page just kind of made it a long page. So it created some concerns that maybe visitors would not scroll and see everything, especially the options that are on the bottom of the page. And the other problem is it didn't really help us in promoting specific programs or getting inquiries and leads to the right area of the college.
Yeah, so we ultimately decided that this was one layer too many. So we shortened the path by taking users directly to their career area of interest, in this case, nursing, in this example, where all of the available non-credit and credit programs were together in one place. So just basically shortened that path by one level.
So when we looked at the wireframe, what that meant for us was that, was that when you looked at our usability testing and we looked at how students like to filter programs in all the areas of interest, we tried creating career pages, an overview about nursing as a career and incorporate all of our options. So on this example in front of you, you can see that we have a CNA apprenticeship, an LPN, and an RN. Now, this philosophy also aligned very well with our guided pathways, showing a career path with potential start and stop points, showing the options to continue on their studies. And then we created each program or credential page with specific information about that program or credential using some of our new custom components with their website. So here with LPN, we have a link to show our sequence of study of pages and our registration as well. So you can see on the left, the career page, if you will, nursing, and then on the right would be how the page would lay out for LPN. And Kelly, I think if you go to the next slide, you can actually see it better probably with inside the design of the new website.
Right. So the new design shows it's lined up. So you do get that list of the green section here translates to this list of the pathways or programs that you can take with basic information about them, like the length of time. So it was a small preview that then would take you to the credential page. And then these were additional components on that page that included featuring their beautiful remodeled health sciences building, Grundy Hall, incredible building, and different other benefits of the nursing program in general and related pages. So individuals could choose a career path and then quickly see their options. So here's an example. If you click the ADN accordion, then you open that up and you get a bullet list of features and then a link to the program page for the ADN degree.
Right, so the new design really allowed us to show all of our options in one place. We used the accordion to show the credentials and how they stack together so that they can able to earn the next credential. So you can see the flexibility where you can start and where you can stop and how you can later pursue the next credential if you like. And now when we market our programs, we can also just now send our traffic and our marketing to this page. We're not creating necessarily another landing page, but we're using the career page as a page to promote all of our nursing options in one place. which makes our budget much more efficient as well.
Yes, it does.
Thank
And
goodness,
this,
right? Because there's
yeah, and
never enough budget.
never enough. And this example of welding is such a great example for stackable credentials. So let's pause for just a moment to talk about stackable credentials because they're the future. Everyone here has probably heard of them or is working with them in some way. If not, definitely have a conversation with your enrollment folks because the buzz in higher ed and workforce training right now is definitely around stackable credentials. So if this isn't part of your marketing strategy, it should be. And here's some research, 4 examples of research that have come out recently talking about the benefits of stackability. The University of Chicago did research on the skills half-life, which is really about what happens when you think you're one and done with your college degree. So this specific projection of theirs is that 60% of the workforce in 2024 would need retraining by 2027. Oof, that's 3 years difference. So this is a model that allows workers to return to college for just-in-time certificates that update their existing degree without them needing to start over again. AI disruptions, a certificate is a lot faster and possibly more relevant to getting a master's degree or even maybe a bachelor's degree, depending. So you're probably offering professional development certificates right now, and those credentials are another way to help you keep your alumni coming back to you for additional training throughout their careers. Even if they've gone on to get a bachelor's or master's degree at another institution. So this is, think of this as patching a degree and just adding a little bit more to kind of keep people skilling constantly throughout their career. Motivation. 71% of students who start stacking end up earning, right? It's that early win, that feeling of like, I got a certificate or I completed a course. So they are getting something done and then they feel motivated and know that they can continue and have faith in themselves that they will finish that longer degree. And finally, the job opportunity factor that people are learning while they're learning while they're earning, right? They can get a certificate and get into the workforce, begin working, and then continue to work at a new certificate, a new associate that will contribute to advancing in their work. So stackable credentials are really like the big deal, and this new design for Hawkeye really supports that. So
Yes.
our next step was the credential page.
Right. After we reworked or created the career pages, we were able to move on and develop our credential page, right? This is the certificate, the diploma, the associate degree. So again, here's the old web page, and you can see that there's lots of good information about what you'll learn, a faculty spotlight, testimonials, career wages information, and all of that information. And then when we looked at redoing that using some new components, we were able to pull in some different things from that end of it. We were able to maintain our course feed, which was unique for us. It was something that we had custom built, and use other components for our testimonial at a glance from that end of it. And so while this doesn't look very exciting as a wireframe, here it comes to life. And you can kind of see those components in play. Basically using the same kind of information that we had on the old website, but using different components and laying it out, it becomes much more interactive and much more interesting. We have bullets about the career itself, some unique factoids, if you will. We brought in the Lightcast digit widget, I think on the next page there, that shows wages here in our market area. We have able to show like our new facility with Grundy Hall, how it's been renovated. So much more user-friendly, much more engaging for the student from that end of it. And then
And
here's the
still,
accordion. Yeah, the program overview with a semester by semester of what students will learn. And this is something that my advisors, my admissions rep, folks really like because it's just at a glance, very high level from that end of it.
so when we itemized every credential, it more than doubled the number of pages that you would need on your website. So you were folding in apprenticeships, workforce education certificates, and they were going in with associate's degrees and diplomas.
Yes,
So
we had to create a lot of content. We pulled all the credit, the non-credit together, the apprenticeship, and every credential. We came up with about 120 pages that we needed to develop and write for from that end of it. So, and it was summertime, and my faculty were off for the summer.
So this turned into quite a journey. Mary Pat, this was a lot of new work for you to take on. So part of our charge as your consultant was to help you figure that out. And I know we had some bumps in the road with this. Can you explain how you eventually came around to this plan of pages for every credential?
Well, it was a bumpy ride. The strategy that we worked through and kind of had worked out with the career pages and credential pages, they made logical sense. But at the same time, I had faculty that didn't like having their program next to another possible competing program. My team, who created the content, felt like they were really duplicating a lot of information, right? And so there was just a lot of, uncertainty and questions from that end of it. But if I go back to what we were trying to accomplish with our program marketing, and based on my knowledge of working with programs and marketing individual programs, my hunch was that this was going to work. It wasn't clear for everyone else from that end of it. And so we had lots of discussions. We built some test pages and we had more discussions. And finally, we just got a point where you just have to say, we have to try this. I had leadership on my side with the guided pathways, so I knew I was going to have support. So I just pulled the Band-Aid off and said, we're going to do this. Let's try.
Did you end up dividing the work, or how did you get people to write like all those pages with a limited team?
That's a great question because we're a small office. I think there's about 5 of us and myself, right? And so what it was we divided and conquered. I had folks, I had one person working with just the healthcare programs and somebody else working with the business programs. And this allowed them to focus on areas and make the pages complementary, right? I had someone else that was just working on faculty testimonials. I had one person just going out and getting photos and video. So, it was one of those things, we just kind of focused and we divided and conquered and we got her done.
Oh, that's great. And with 120 pages, that's a huge task to do.
Yeah, just a couple pages, right?
Just a few, yeah, right. So we knew that it wasn't just enough to redesign the program page experience. As we redesigned the homepage, we knew it was going to be important to add gateways to those pages, to those program pages, and to help future students really find that right admissions path for them. So this is the old homepage, which was really focused on kind of news and events. Is kind of like a newsroom page. We did a complete redesign of the homepage so that we were providing multiple pathways for students to get to where they wanted to go based on where they were coming from or what their future goals are. So we added in a component that was about, what do I want to do? Do I want to just get in and build some skills and continue in my career, or am I ready to earn a college degree? Or maybe you're a member of the area business community looking for custom training. So there were a lot of ways to go about this based on what you knew about yourself. Here's a couple more. Further down the page, we broke out all those career areas into a carousel. And then we did this little component where you could identify yourself based on like how are you a high school student? Are you maybe a community member who is looking for training, or are you an adult student returning to work? And each of those areas would get a little curated set of links that would take them to other things to answer questions about how to do Hawkeye. How do I get into college?
Now, if you recall, through our usability testing, we learned that students really like to use the filters to find their options. So what we did is we used a complete listing of all of our programs, and then we used a filter to identify programs by a career area of interest or a credential or length of time to complete. We found that this was actually easier for our users and delivered better results. But additionally, then you might notice that we also had a couple unique filters. We had, because the credit and non-credit were together, all those programs listing, the credit programs are eligible for federal financial aid. So we created a filter to identify which programs were financial aid eligible. And then in Iowa, we have a unique program where if you're in a high demand area, you're able to qualify for a no tuition program. And so we did no tuition or tuition free to help identify the state of Iowa workforce programs. And again, it just allowed our students, our admissions rep, and our advisors quickly find the programs of interest for them. And it's really interesting because this gives us lots of flexibility too, Kelly. Workforce Pell is coming on board, so we can also add additional filters. So the design is flexible and allows us to do what we need to do to make things easier for our students. So, Kelly, we talked about design and some functionality and different things, but we also, when we did the new website, we also needed to look at our content strategy, and we needed to change that as well. We knew that we wanted our web pages to have a different voice and tone. We wanted a warm, welcoming, and encouraging tone on the website. And so when we looked at our pages from where we were to where we went to, as an academic institution, we liked big words. It makes us feel important and intelligent. But when we looked at the Hemingway grade score of some of our pages, some of our pages were written at an 18 or 19 reading level. And like the page that you're looking at here, we were at a reading level 14. Well, here's what's interesting. Most of our students have just completed high school, so they're at a reading level of 12. So there was a disconnect. So when we rewrote the pages, right, we used less words, but we wrote to a 7th or 8th grade reading level. And look what it did to our pages. So before we cut our grade, we were at a grade level D, and we only had a 55% reach. But after rewriting to a grade level of 9 and reducing about 75% of the words, we were able to reach 91% of our audience. So it made a huge difference in the performance of the page.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really great example of cutting the content by a lot and having more clarity, and yet the same information is still there. It's just been reorganized, or course listings are located in the AuguSoft catalog. So this page now really focuses on options, on outcomes, and what students can expect in the program.
Yeah. Kelly, it was really definitely a team effort. We moved mountains in a couple of months. The website probably wasn't perfect, but it was a huge improvement over the old website content from that.
Yeah. So here's an example of engagement, right? Like increasing engagement on the website was a big goal of the project. And this heat map, these are 2 heat maps. It's hard to tell because engagement was so low, but this shows how there was such limited activity on the cybersecurity and industrial automation technology pages. But on the new site, same programs, we just are seeing more engagement. People are scrolling further through the page, and they're really getting into all of the different component parts. They're reading they're opening the accordions to read the program descriptions. They're looking at overview accordions. So really digging in on this. So we're really pleased to see this evidence of how engagement has increased so much on these program pages. So Mary Pat, we all celebrated like this when the site went live a year ago. Were there any changes to who manages the programs or who manages things on the web, the content on the website?
That's a great question, Kelly. The units who own the programs, still really own the programs. Our business processes didn't change. Every program page has contacts for questions. We even customized our call to actions on the page based on whether it was credit or non-credit. So leads are properly sent to the right area, which is really important for everyone. It's important for our student enrollment. And as far as marketing programs, we are now able to show all of our options and advertise a career path, which makes our advertising much more efficient.
Yeah, that's a really exciting change. All right, let's talk about success and what we were able to measure. So we could see improvements on all metrics after the site went live. In the first 2 weeks, increase in new users, active users, application clicks, and conversion rates. Spectacular. Mary Pat, how did your team react to these gains?
Well, it was a moment of truth. This is where folks became a believer. And actually, with all these numbers, we were just blown away by the increases that we saw in just a couple of weeks. I mean, look at these numbers, 11% increase in new users. They were more active. And our increase in application clicks, wow, it was just awesome.
What did this do for your reporting to the college cabinet?
Well, I think it only gave our president and leadership team a better understanding of the power of the website. We didn't have good infrastructure. Our content was really written more for academic folks. So these results, if you look at them, we're just really scratching at the surface. So today, I find leadership, they're more supportive with the resources we need. They're more understanding. But all of this takes so much more. So of course, the expectation has also increased, but it's increased in a very positive way.
That's good.
So lessons learned, Kelly? Well, from my end of it, first off, I would tell everybody to engage your campus. Cabinet, deans, directors, faculty, staff, include them all, include as many as possible. Change is hard and you'll need to bring them along. And in the end, you'll be so glad that you did. The other thing that I always remember is students are the priority. I had a very wise man tell me once, always take care of your customer or your students and the rest will fall into place. And this is so true. We really take pride in trying to put students first. And let me tell you, you got to keep the faith, not only in yourself, but but with your team as well. Website projects, they're not for the weak of heart. They are hard, they're tough, but if you can keep the faith, you'll get there. Divide and conquer. Do ask for help. Many hands will make light work. And above all, don't forget to have the foundation, key metrics, or analytics to measure. They are important and they're helpful. They'll tell the story for you. And Kelly, what about your end? What did you learn?
Well,
or did you learn?
We always learn, but we were really, coming off of this project, there's a lot of really great lessons that can apply to anyone who's watching this. Here are some ideas for you if you are getting ready to undertake your own website redesign project. One is, use search. Start out by searching for your college and your programs and see what you find. Run your SERPs, that's search engine results page. Ask questions like your students would and track those results, right? And save your screenshots. Use heat maps to find gaps in the journey. They can reveal so much about what people are actually doing on your pages. look for common search terms on your site, see what is going on. And we always say, save the evidence. Listen to your audience. So query your users, AKA students, and do some usability tests. See if they are they using your site? Are they finding success on your site? And trust what they tell you. Under partner, I say make your consultant say the hard stuff. We have all experienced having our own colleagues or leadership not quite believe what we're trying to tell them. And then we hire a consultant who says the same thing, and suddenly everybody believes it. We get it. Work with your consultant to help. We can help you by saying the hard stuff that needs to be said. And finally, find your brag points and use them. You've worked hard. This is a hard project, as Mary Pat said, not for the weak of heart. And tout your success, because you will have successes. All right, so we hope you've learned something today and that you can take something away from this presentation. And we both would be happy if you want to try to connect with us on LinkedIn.
Yep, we'd be happy to discuss or answer any of your questions. It's always fun to share information with colleagues. So hopefully you found something of value.
All right, thanks, everyone.
All righty, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Mary Pat and Kelly are here to answer your questions, and we do have a couple of questions. So let's start with the first one for Mary Pat. When students are searching for a degree program, are they searching for the broad degree or for the concentrations offered for the degree? And does the behavior differ for traditional age student versus adult online learners?
That's a great question. And the short answer is it depends. And it's true. All of it's true and none of it's true, if you will, per se. Every student that comes to college has a different goal in mind. So sometimes we see the student that is coming right out of high school and they know exactly what they want. And sometimes that's the adult student as too. But many times they think they know where they want and they don't know what all their options are. So with this strategy that we used, allows us to have the best of both worlds. They can see all their options within a career path. And sometimes adult students, especially those that maybe have been laid off, they only want to go back to school for the shortest amount of time so they can get back in the workforce. I mean, they have kids, they have families, they have responsibilities. So it's true of all of it. I mean, sometimes they're very focused and they know exactly what they want, and sometimes they need to explore and see all their options.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Kelly, a question for you, possibly. What would you say to someone trying to incorporate accessibility into website content strategy?
I would say yes. This is the right move. You definitely want to be thinking about accessibility when you are planning your content strategy. One of the things you should do is do training on the early side with everyone who is part of your content team. If you have a distributed team, like perhaps across departments, that is a consideration to take in, because accessibility is so important. For one, it's the right thing to do, but also there are legal risks involved with not being accessible. So where do you want to contain that risk? And then you want to train that team. We do a lot of content training that serves both SEO and accessibility, and they share a lot of practices. So getting into structured content, and we're doing more with schema these days, which will also support AI search. But understanding the purpose of your structured content and your header structures and why that matters, why that's important. Getting into understanding plain language. We talked about those examples from Hemingway and also readable.com, and how we said the same things with fewer words and reached more people, right? That's another accessibility practice, because it's not just reaching people at their grade level, but it also might be reaching people who have a reading disability, something like that. So those are really important. And then also just training people on thinking about images in context of accessibility too, because images and documents are also content. So do you have proper alt text? Are your PDFs fully accessible? These are all critical components of any website project, but can definitely be brought in as a content at the content strategy phase of no matter where you are at with your website, whether it's just launched or you're getting ready for a new one.
Absolutely. A follow-up to the first question, possibly for Mary Pat. Following up on the first question, Doreen from Belhaven University asked, how are students searching on degree concentrations in Google? Do you have any answer for that?
You know, I don't know that I have a good answer for you, Doreen. What I have found just with search in general is that sometimes students, they only know the higher degree, and sometimes they don't know all of their options. So I think it's important that when you write your page and you optimize it for all of those different scenarios so that you can come up in those results.
And I would add to this, think about how those students might be looking for that concentration. They may not be thinking, I'm looking for a concentration in X, but they might be thinking, I want to work as a, whatever that might be. So tying your concentrations to the career outcomes that they lead to might be a way of getting into that detail.
Very good. Very good. One more question. We have time for one more question. You mentioned some internal resistance when combining credit and non-credit programs. How did you get stakeholders aligned, and what would you do differently if you started over?
Oh, that's a tough question. You know, we did have the advantage of adopting guided pathways. So that was something that became part of our strategic plan when we did our last strategic plan. So I had that kind of in my back pocket, if you will. Plus, I had a lot of pressure from leadership to demonstrate how we were doing that. It's one thing to say we do it in the classroom or with our advising or admissions process. So, you know, the best thing that you can do that I've learned with website projects is to bring people along, get them involved from day one in the project. Sometimes they don't understand their role, but at least if they're there at the table, they have a voice. And then they can also hear the rationale. They also hear the issues that we have as a college with accreditation or working with the Department of Education, and they kind of have a better understanding. For us, the two sides were kind of seen as competitive. I don't think they necessarily are. I think they serve different audiences. But when you're an instructor and your classroom is your bread and butter, so to speak, enrollment is important. So I think it was acknowledging that, yeah, there may be some competition, but we'll work through it. I also had a president that said, you know, if we need to put some additional marketing behind some programs, we will do that as well. So we kind of laid out the options, brought them along, and then gave them some backup. So reassurance that, you know, this will be okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good. Okay, let's do one more question. You ended up creating over 100 programs and credential pages. How did you prioritize what content to create first, and how did you maintain consistency across all the pages?
Well, I think we prioritized. I don't know if there was a good prioritization pattern that we did, but we went at probably after the program areas or those career areas like health, manufacturing that were our most popular, where they were affecting the most students. And we worked through those first. I think also assigning one person in my department to write all of those pages allowed us to be consistent with our information within that healthcare area. And so the pages were complementary and not competing with one another. And then, you know, to be honest with you, once you get everything done, then you kind of go back and you do a quality check, right? And to make sure, did we cover everything? You know, in manufacturing, we talked maybe about new technology. Did we do that in healthcare? And then go back and you kind of make some of those corrections or adjustments where you need to do that.
Absolutely. Kelly, anything to add there from a strategy standpoint?
No, not other than, you know, breaking up the work, right? And everybody kind of working on what they're good at or can specialize in really helps do that heavy lift with the content.
Sure. I don't
Yeah.
see any other questions. Thank you both so much for sharing. If anybody's in the audience who's thinking about combining their credit and non-credit programs, feel free to reach out to Kelly O'Brien or Mary Pat Moore again on LinkedIn, or message us or email us at info@staymates.com, or visit our website at staymates.com. Everybody, like I said, we'll have a recording of this presentation sent out in the upcoming days along with the PDF of the slides. And other than that, I wish you everybody a good rest of the week, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Thank you for having us.